Yeah. So what would be the greatest way that I could experience this unlimitedness that I pray about every day?
Yeah, just enjoy it, my dear friend. You see, you can't put it in a bottle, and you can't give it a name. Ultimately, part of the plan as you grow into greater and greater love is as you are on a quest for love. Suddenly, you become that, and no longer are you seeking it, but you're just the full expression of it.
All right, brother. It's nice to have you here, man. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me on your platform.
That's awesome, man. So I came across you on Instagram, and I could just tell right away that that there was a certain resonance, I think, between between us in terms of our relationship with love more than anything. And I think that's why I asked you to be here, which is so that we could have a conversation about what that juicy ass love frequency is all about, and like
it brings us together.
Right.
Magnetic, yes.
That's awesome, man. So the topic, I guess, for this show is the hero's journey. Doing a little bit of research on you, reading a little bit on your website, and just kind of curious, like to talk about, to having a little discussion, a little adventure around what is the hero's journey, and what yours looked like, and see if we can maybe provide some tools and resources to the listeners around that, around the courage that it takes to kind of wake up from our slumber, if you will, and step deeper into our authenticity.
Yeah, you said exactly right. The courage, it takes courage to fall in love with yourself. And that's eventually what I ended up doing. I didn't have the courage. A lot of people don't. But it really takes courage to fall in love with yourself so you can find yourself and be grounded. So it's very deep.
Yeah.
You said it on point. But yeah, man, I'm from the islands, the West Indies. So I'll just say, I tell a lot of people I was lost. I'm 50, so I was lost for 42 years. Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
I came to America when I was in 1980. And, just coming here, it's already into an unknown place. I didn't speak the language, and just lost as a young person. So when you're in a new area, elementary school, you don't know anything. You're already a shy person. You don't talk. You're in a box. You're by yourself. I'm a Cancer, so they're already in the box. But that's just kind of like how it started. You know what I mean? And as life went on, fast forward, you gotta grow up real fast. You know how they shove you to the school system. And throughout that, you just kind of don't have time for yourself. You don't even know what the self is as a young person. And I think still that is today even faster. So back in the 80s, things were slower, but the system is still the same,
Yeah, exactly. It's a factory, right? Where you create they have these social intellectual frameworks, and they want people to fit into these little boxes, and they want to teach them certain things that have been curated for the agenda, and they want these we want to like mass produce these like these future factory workers and taxpayers, right? For I want to say the corrupt few who are just lack tremendous self-discipline, and anyway, that's another story.
That's totally on point. Yeah, you got it right, brother. Yeah, like what? But so that's kind of the premise of where things started. So when I was in high school, around 11th grade, I started sleeping. I had no idea why. I was sleeping in class during like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, something like that. And eventually my aunt, she was like, you need to go get this checked out, because it became so constant. But I didn't think anything of it. But I remember I failed a couple of classes because of that.
Mm.
And I had no idea what this was.
Mm.
And of course, you know, you graduate high school, you try to get a job and do things like that, make some money, earn a living. And eventually this sleeping got into, you know, my life was there. I didn't know why still. I'm at work, I'm sleeping all the time, but I had no clue what it was. So eventually I went to this doctor. I think it was Georgetown University back in the day, or Georgetown Hospital, something like that. They did a study. They said, man, you got narcolepsy. I don't know what that was. And so I was like, okay, I guess so, right? You know, you accept what the doctor says, right? So it's a sleeping disorder. And so I had a lot of challenges, you know, working, keeping jobs, literally keeping jobs. So I went from one job to the next, to the next, to the next, you know, getting fired in a few of them. It's all good. But, you know, eventually I found a few jobs I stayed at. But with this new finding for the last 8 years of self-discovery and finding self within the last 8 years, you know, I come to find out it really wasn't narcolepsy or neurological disorder. It was all vibrational. You know what I mean? So this is why it's critical to know yourself. And if you don't know self, and you will fall into this trap, you might become what somebody tells you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah, and the fact that on a large scale, people are operating from these mass root assumptions and these limiting frameworks and these limiting belief systems and all of these different ways that human beings categorize their reality in order to feel safe and comfortable. And it's in that categorization of limited frameworks that human beings used to feel safe in their ego that actually limits them from reaching their spiritual potentials. Very much so.
There, man. So you're 100% right. Like
yeah. So 8 years ago, you said, what was there a trigger? Was there an experience? Was there something that opened you up to that Kundalini energy that you spoke about in some of your videos? What was there? Was there a Kundalini activation? Was there something that happened?
Yeah, I remember in 2011, I was driving to work, and and what was happening was I remember driving. You know, I was in the mortgage business, heading to work, and I looked to the left, right? So there was a lady in the car. We both looked at each other at the same time. So I caught myself literally looking, and I was like, "Why the hell did I look to the left side?" And so I'm like, you know, it wasn't like it was an accident or a lady in a red dress walking by, right? So that was kind of like the Pandora's box. You know, time for things opened up a little bit. Self-awareness, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And that's how it works. You go from living in an intellectual space to the observer, right? The observer comes forward, and then there's it's a click. It's like, oh fuck, I'm here.
Right. What was that? Like, myself to look, and so I was like, this is strange. So I just kept going and going. But really, what started happening was I started seeing this repeated number 314. Right. I was waking up in the morning at 3:14. I really didn't know why. And this was for years, like maybe 10 years or so, or even more. And if you're not aware or you're not paying attention, you're not going to recognize this pattern.
Sure.
So eventually I recognized the pattern, and it just kept happening. And so during this last 8 years, this is when things really took off. One, I got fired from my job. I was working at Solar City, knocking on doors. And, you know, when you have work, family, kids, you know, you're trying to balance your health, right? It's hard. It's challenging. So I would put off going to the gym myself, taking care of health, to go and get commission, right? Knock on doors. I'm like, okay, I'll go ahead and go into the work field because you need the money, right?
Absolutely.
That's just how the system is. So I kept putting that off. And some days I'll go to the gym 2 or 3, days, and then it's like a week off. Very inconsistent. So after I got fired, I was like, you know what? I'm not dealing with a corporation again. I'm going to put time to meet. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I'm not dealing with 60 hours of a corporation and only 1 or 2 for me. That doesn't make any sense. So I just started digging deep and going slow. You know what I mean?
Nice. Start investing in yourself.
Working on self. That's right.
Yeah. And I really think that that's a big part of the future on this planet is I mean, there's going to be an educational reformation taking place in the educational system. There's going to be a reformation in the political system as well. But that this is all going to be taking place in conjunction with human beings, and from the recognition that us as human beings, in order to experience the quality of life that we desire, there has to be a certain alignment with who you are on a fundamental level, what you're naturally passionate about, what naturally motivates you, what excites you, what makes you feel happy. Because this old paradigm and this old framework of selling our lives and our time and our energy for money, there's a tremendous inefficiency there, because you're trying to force people to do good work in situations and environments where they're not motivated to do so other than money. So it becomes a trade-off, and there becomes this like big struggle of how do we create efficient environments? How do we create, in terms of a business model, how do we bring people together? How do we become more efficient? How do we make a process efficient? Whatever. But you have all of these people who are doing things for the wrong reasons. And then if you're not self-motivated, maybe you don't have a certain fear that drives you or a certain work ethic that drives you. You're always, in terms of a business model, you're always going to have a lot of people who are just there just to, you know what I mean? And that's really not quality of life. Quality of life, in my estimation, moving forward, is from the ground up. We develop a framework where we begin having the discernment to recognize who people are as individuals, what they're here to do, and then helping to facilitate, to put people in places and positions where they can truly thrive.
No, I agree 100%, man. And also, if I can add, there has to be this organic feeling where you vibe daily, naturally and organically. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I took. What's that? Say that again.
Thing, and things can't sustain that feeling. Unless you're grounded, you can't sustain the natural organic feeling of being happy for no reason. Things and housing, but just getting things, stuff.
Right. You're right. And part of that behavioral pattern of always looking externally for fulfillment is it's a never ending cycle. So people are always doing it. They're always looking for external validation, and we're always going external, grasping externally to try to facilitate a certain internal fulfillment, right? Yeah. And as we learn to move inward in our lives, and and when I think of the hero's journey, and I haven't researched it much, but I know the basis of it is from author, God, I can't think of his name right now, Joseph Campbell. But it's basically a universal template where, we're living in this, externalized ego, intellectual framework, or a concrete mind. That's our identity. And then, like you said, something happens and you're triggered for the deeper self to kind of wake up from its slumber, and then you set yourself up on this journey of self-actualization. And that self-actualization is essentially how we save ourselves, because the manipulation of even the story of Christ is like Christ came to save us. No, Christ came to remind us that we can save ourselves. And the hero's journey is how we save ourselves from our perpetual suffering, our perpetual grasping externally for something that is only available on the inside.
That's right, man. Going in, I agree so much, brother. And that's kind of where I died. I had to stop going to play football, basketball, soccer, tennis, just all those things I stopped doing. It wasn't even serving my heart when you think about it, after I reflected on it. And actually, I found myself through dance, which is interesting. Mm-hmm. It's very deceptive, this dance that I do. Mm-hmm. It's a fitness dance class I walked into when I got fired, but I was lifting weights and I'd go dance for my cardio. So of course the music felt really good. Dancing feels good. Mm-hmm. So I just kept going. And of course I started reflecting on what I couldn't see, which is the energy. Broke as hell. I mean, I was broke, you know? And so I was like, well, why the hell do I still feel good? And what I didn't say was, one thing I used to have, I already had all this stuff, 10 houses, 2 restaurants. I already did that, 30K a month. I did that, school and dance. So I had everything, you know what I mean? Range Rovers, all that stuff, man. But I had nothing. I had everything, but I had nothing. And now I had nothing, but I have everything. You know what I mean?
So you had achieved a certain level of personal success in the world, or at a certain point in your adult life?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. So you were already good at manifesting, obviously. Then, I mean, that's a gift. That's a gift when people can tap into that.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing. This power that's there, and when it's gifted, you need to know what to do with this power.
Right. It's where you direct it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, I haven't achieved any level of worldly success at my age, whatever, ever. But part of my path was that I was supposed to go inward as deeply as possible and to embody the frequency of love as profoundly as I could. And now that I've done so much of that work, then now I'm redirecting my energy out into the external reality so that I could, find a way to share that and then reap the rewards of that internal freedom that I've cultivated in an external fashion. But I guess my point is, to the listeners, is wherever you direct your energy and your focus, you're going to have success. You know what I mean? Like, we are inherently, we are creators, we are manifestors. And so whatever you want to experience, whether it is that personal development, whether it is that worldly acclaim, whether it is that financial, whatever you want to do, you can have it. It's just a matter of where your heart is, right?
It's you said it perfectly, because the heart, that's where the love is. We live inside of our hearts, you know what I'm saying? This conscious vibration, that's what gives us the feeling. And when you tap into this love, this is what dancing will do. When you dance, you're literally raising your vibrations to that feeling. And this is what I discovered. So, you're always going to, by your thoughts, if you're vibrating high in the 639 hertz, right? This vibration of love, whatever you think about should happen. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that whole Kundalini energy should be on. And that's where
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that is an interesting thing, because me as a mystic, I've always been in those like upper realms of 5, 6, 7, the upper realms of the always contemplating on the nature of reality and things like that. And then I was working unconsciously to open my heart to this like universal love. And then when my Kundalini it opened up actually because it was, I had met somebody that I felt who could truly see me as an individual for the first time in my life. And that kind of I felt like my root chakra at that point, it was the first time I ever felt safe in the world. I was 34 years old, and just that connection with her, I felt safe. And when I felt safe, I mean, it was already opening up, and I was already having an awakening. That was just what I was supposed to do. But I felt that connection, that safety, was also a big part of when my root chakra opened up, like boom, because I was already up in the upper realms always. Right. So when it opened up, it created a conduit for God consciousness to just blaze through me. And it was a lot. Yeah. The Holy Spirit, it's interesting. I don't think a lot of people think about this, but the frameworks that we have been operating from are in such a way that that the masses are taught that like God is like a masculine, energy, an externalized sky god. But I really truly believe, from my experiential from the embodiment, the experience that I had, without being told, that the Holy Spirit is a feminine, creative, sexual energy. And even though the energy of the universe, whether it's the non-physical Holy Spirit or the physical manifestation of the Holy Spirit energy, the physical realm being kind of the masculine energy and the spiritual emotional realm being the feminine energy, the Holy Spirit, which is the creator of all things, just in the same way that women create life on this earth, on this planet. If you were to have to put an association with God, I would say that it's
female.
God is a feminine energy and she's black. You know what I mean? She's darkness. She's pure sexual creative love.
Dark matter.
That's right. Yeah.
No, but that's crazy. We vibe in the same way, but that's what I believe, bro. Straight up.
Yeah.
This feminine energy is real. Like, there's a circle in that womb. That circle is everything. And it doubles, and that's where we come from. This energetic circle.
Right.
And that circle doubles, and then it goes to 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5. That's the pattern right there. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Those are your symbols, MM.
Wow. Love that.
Symbol, that vortex math.
Infinity, right?
Mm-hmm. And the other side is that 639. That's where I'm from. So that's what I discovered also, man. Like, the last 8 years, I was like, oh my God, I'm seeing the number 314 for 12 years. Oh, I was born in the center of the circle. That's pi. Oh my goodness. So, January through December, I found out if you're a Cancer, it starts in Cancer constellation starts on June 22nd, ends on July 22nd. And so those 30 days are the constellation of Cancer, right? It's the hottest time of the year, energetically speaking, right? It's the center. It's like when you make a storm or when a storm is made, the center is crazy, but it's also calm, right? The yin and the yang. And so 22 divided by 7 happens to be 314. So I was like, damn, okay, well, that makes sense. That validated why I was seeing 314. You know what I mean?
Wow. That 7/22 is your birthday?
No, June 30.
Oh, June 30.
So, So
I got you.
So it's the center, but why am I getting 314 messages?
I understand. Yeah. You're trying to figure out what the universe is communicating to you, what life is communicating to you, right? Now, you were saying something about MM. What were you signifying about that?
Your logo, it's, MM, which happens to be the same pattern as the infinity symbol. I was just mentioning that again.
Gotcha that. Copy that. Yeah, no, that's very interesting. So tell me a little bit about the book that you recently wrote. It's called Be Yourself.
Yes. It's it says be you, but it's actually has so many. It's a metaphor, has so many meanings, right? Be you, be yourself. But I made it from that number 314. So if you look closely in the middle, the one's not there. It's just 3 and a 4. 314 is pi in math, like I said earlier. So it's the center of the circle, right? And in order for you to be yourself or find yourself, you got to dig deep and go down within to find the one that you can't see. And of course, if you look in the mirror, man, you're just going to see your body. And now everybody knows that you're not the body. You're just electromagnetic. Well, I call it electromagnetic vibrational being of light that exists in the body. And so that's what BU is all about. It's about getting down deep, just like how you had to go down and get grounded. And when you're grounded, you feel safe. You know what I mean? You have everything. That's the foundation. And you can't build anything without a foundation. You know what I mean? That's like, I don't care where you are on this planet, time. It's been around since the beginning of time. And I also say, this is why the ancient Kemetic people talked about this. Know thyself. It was all over there.
It's 9 o'clock.
It was in Luxor, I think, in Egypt. It said, know thyself.
Yes, so absolutely.
What this means, man. Know thyself. Be yourself. Either one you can't see.
Awesome. That's awesome, man. Thank you for sharing that. It looks like too. So in terms of your work, what do you do? I noticed you got some products out and you're doing some different things. What's your brand all about?
Well, it's about love, man. 314 is where love exists. It's the center, balance. You got to go deep down to find the one. And when you find that one, that feeling, that magnetic feeling that's in the core that sustains everything. If you think about it, inside of Mother Earth lies this, huge sun, and it's magnetic. So the trees grow from it. Everything gets the feeling from there. So when you tap into that, that's when you actually can raise your vibrations.
Right.
That's happening. So it's about love. It's about showing people how to be kind, respectful, courteous, showing them how to let go of negativity, let go of noise, just how to find their own flow and live in as light. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you on that. And I think that human beings need those types of frameworks and those types of tools to understand that, you know, we're all spiritual creatures irregardless of the way that we see ourselves. You know, we're all energy, right? And we can all agree that we're just, you know, there's just, you know, rotating, you know, atoms and frequency and the physicality is, you know, it's kind of an illusion and not an illusion at the same time, right? And
the vibration.
Right, exactly. And so I know on my path it was like a lot of those years I spent, you know, like putting on the mind of Christ, like I was telling you before the show, you know, learning how to, uh, um, you know, the three tenets: love, inspiration, and patience, to become the full expression of love, to be inspired by the love of God in every single moment of my life, and to be the full, you know, and then to be a full expression of patience. And because I realized how impatient I was as an individual, and as human beings, we are inherently, when we're operating from that intellectual space, we're always trying to control things. We're always trying to avoid our vulnerability. You see, because externally, you know, right, the world has, you know, there's certain things in the world that make us feel vulnerable, and so we're always trying to kind of shield our intellect and our behavior in order to avoid those vulnerabilities, to feel safe, right? Right. And so a lot of that work was about, you know, embodying, for me, the virtues of God, like learning how to refine that masculine energy and that my ability to show up congruently so that my thoughts and my words and my actions and my behaviors were all aligned. And that's, you know, that's how we learn how to embody virtue. But one thing that I didn't realize was that, you know, virtue and developing the masculine energy, it has a certain limitation, because when you're living from that intellectual identity, that limited ego, that concrete identity, that local identity, and then you get dumped into that feeling energy, that feeling consciousness, I call it, that God consciousness, that feminine energy, it's very abstract. It's very, it doesn't fit into intellectual categorizations. And so that's where that universal love and that compassion allow us to recognize the paradoxical nature, or the power of contrast, and the power and the limitation of the fact that, sure, you want to utilize your intellect and your virtue and your conscience as a guidepost for action, but there's something deeper inside of us that's far more intelligent, and it's that river of love. It's that river of truth. It's that energy, and that energy is what actually allows us to be guided in our lives. So I definitely want to encourage people to develop that virtue, but don't allow that virtue to be like the absolute truth. The intellect is not the absolute truth. The intellect is a portion of our experience. The ultimate goal is to be able to tap into that feeling consciousness, and then to be able to learn how to read frequency consistently. And you only learn how to read frequency and consistently by developing your intuition and learning how to trust yourself, like you said. So as you learn how to trust your intuition and how you feel, then that becomes your ultimate guidepost. And then your intellect and your virtue and all of the different philosophies and all that stuff, those are great tools, but it's not who you are. Who you are is that observer that's deep inside.
Right, that's right. How do you feel? What do you think is, I guess, some of the ways that, you know, men out there, you know, can tap into this feminine energy without just? How do you think they can do that? Because it seems like when I'm in the gym and I see these guys, they're looking in the dance class. I know they want to dance, you know what I mean, but they're so
want to get at.
You know, it's like, I'm a man. I'm going to stay lifting. No, thank you. I don't want to dance. Dances for ladies. I mean, what can we do to just, what do you think we can do to help these guys, man?
Well, I think even conversations like this, where you have two men who visibly look masculine, who speak masculine, but we are tapped into something that's deeper. And so I think that ultimately it's in the ability to disseminate opportunities and to be examples for the fact that it's okay to be tuned into your vulnerability. It's okay to be tapped into your feminine energy. And so part of it is because our role, I think, as men on this planet is when we're tuned into our feminine energy, and then we become like these beacons or these like examples or these guideposts for other people. And slowly but surely, people start to recognize it, becomes more popular, right? And I think part of what's going on is, if you look in mass consciousness, there's an overabundance of compassion, right? There's an overabundance of this swaying this way, where everybody wants to be like super open-minded. But the problem is, the reason that it's swaying so far that way is because the feminine energy, the Holy Spirit, is here and she's helping to awaken consciousness. But because human beings don't know themselves, they have to sway so far over to go, oh, we have to be inclusive. We have to allow everybody a space to be who they are, which is correct. But it's that overcorrection, because people haven't learned how to balance their own masculine and feminine in their own selves. So what'll happen over time, that overcorrection will come back to the center. And as people are learning how to utilize their masculine and utilize their feminine, and to develop the discernment to be able to recognize when we're in integrity and when we're not in integrity, because it's that integrity and that congruence is what is going to drive mass population and culture and all of the social structures into a more cohesive, into a more cohesive framework of you know what I mean? So yeah, I think that that's already kind of taking place, and I think it's important for people like us to be able to offer examples for what it means to embody both of those energies, because that is the future of humanity. I call that the unicorn humans. Like we're coming in as the unicorn humans, and then we can be that example for what's possible. And slowly but surely, by offering the tools that we've gathered over our experience, and in my estimation, not just in this life, like many lifetimes. Like I came from another star system, and I have a lot of like tools and things that had nothing to do with this identity that you're talking to.
I do know, man. I signed up for this. I'm willing to die for love, bro. This is where I live. This is where I'm from, and that's what I discovered through this hero journey, man. Helping people to be uncomfortable is definitely, this is the mission, so people can be grounded, and I take them down to the ground so they can find everything they're seeking, because everybody's seeking love. They're seeking passion, attraction, security, confidence, courage, fearlessness, and peace. And if you're not grounded, you're not going to have it. You need to be grounded to get the feeling, as above, so below. You know what I mean? This is really, when you think about it, the 396 is the root chakra's, the root chakra's frequency. 963 happens to be the crown chakra frequency, and 639 is the heart chakra's frequency. And so this is where I live, the 6, 3, and the 9. That's what I found out. So
love it.
I'm home, literally. You know what I mean? So I signed up for it. I accepted. I went through so many layers just to get down to the ground. It's so deep, bro. You just got to let go of so much stuff. Like I said, I stopped watching TV. The noise, it's just, you can hear it clearer, man. I know, and I wasn't working either. So I had to do 8 years journey, to find everything. And when you have it, like, what else? You don't need things. You know what I mean? I mean, I still enjoy things because it's someone's idea, and I love things like that. But
and I think it's important for us to allow ourselves the space, because that's part of what the personal development thing, how personal development works, is like sometimes you're releasing things because you need to release those layers of attachment, and then maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, and then it'll be reintegrated back into what you enjoy or your behavioral pattern, but it'll reintegrate back when it's not something you're attached to
Right.
as a crutch, right? So that's kind of how, like, personal development, it's like this, that you hold on to something and then you release, and you hold on and you release and you hold, because the identity always needs a little bit of something to lean on, or to feel, or to, to balance and sturdy itself. So and people need to understand that it's like, there's, not demonizing life, not demonizing culture, but just allowing ourselves the vulnerability, the ability to tap into our vulnerabilities, and to recognize that vehicle, that vulnerability vehicle, is the vehicle that's going to allow us to get more and more comfortable with releasing these chains, these intellectual chains that we live from, and learning how to be free in love and truth, right? And just to be able to, because as you develop your self-awareness, you also develop your ability to adapt. Right. So you learn how to move with things, and but you also equally, and it's paradoxical, is you also raise your standards, and you also become more discerning. So you're able to be better at your yeses and your nos, right? That as well. Mm-hmm. And that's empowerment.
It's a power. Yeah. Empowerment and it's a power. So yeah, I agree, brother.
Awesome.
Power lies within you, and you got to tap into it to find it. It's always been there. That on switch, you gotta. I call it, you have to die to get resurrected. You gotta let go of so much stuff, and it's not even things that matter. People hold on to so much stuff, man.
Yeah, and that's the truth, right? Yeah, there's so much that we're so good at telling ourselves stories so that we can stay in that limited, trapped energy, right? Like, how do you learn how to release that story so that the real creator can flourish? And I make podcast, or I make playlists on Spotify, and my most recent playlist is from a photo shoot. I used a photo from that, and it's called Resurrection. So so that's very timely. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. The last couple of months is like really moving into that energy of resurrection. For me, it's been a real long journey. It's almost 10 years this June 29th since I left my marriage. I was in a relationship for 16 years and just went on my hero's journey, almost 10 years ago now, that I've been alone doing this transformational work and finding a way to get my work out into the world slowly but surely. Yeah.
At your pace, at your flow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And, I've been in the manufacturing industry for a long time, so I've found a way to make a living and take care of myself, and at the same time, develop my skill set in terms of, being a public personality or being a fashion designer, all the different things that I'm here to do. Right.
Yeah. Because you're also spreading love, man. And it's needed so much today with all the violence and toxicity, as I say in the book, that's what we're here for, man. We signed
Absolutely.
Up, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, man. And
thank you for having me on this platform, man. This is my first time being on a podcast, so.
No, it's awesome. No, great conversation. I'm glad you're here. I'm really glad we're connected, and look forward to seeing we can do some more things in the future.
Yeah, we definitely will, for sure.
Awesome, brother.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
I appreciate you. All right, guys. Well, until next time, my friends, stay thirsty for life. Love you.